Say a few words about the modernist as reformer. From all that has preceded, some idea may be gained of the reforming mania, the mania to reform, the madness to change everything, the mania to reform, which possesses them. In all Catholicism, there is absolutely nothing on which it does not fasten. Reformer of philosophy, etc., etc., etc. So that's what he says. There's nothing that they don't want to change. And you have also, they wanted to change the way of the cross. There are 8 stations which in the Bible, those they keep, on the Protestant principle of, if it's in the Bible, it's true. If it isn't in the Bible, forget it. And the other 6 stations which aren't in the Bible, they try to wipe out. They changed the rosary, you may remember. They couldn't touch the 15 mysteries, but they added on another 5, which unbalances the rosary. It completely changes the shape of the rosary. It upsets the rosary. But they can't touch, there's nothing that they don't want to change. And the Catholic religion can't change. It doesn't change, it can't change. Alright. Then there are all of these different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I may be missing one, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Notice that the first one is a philosopher, and then only the third one comes theology. You'd have thought that the theologian would come first because Catholic doctrine is theology. It isn't just philosophy. Why does he put philosophy first? It's extremely interesting and extremely important. Because the problem of modernism is not a problem of belief. It's a problem of the head. The head just isn't functioning properly. The head is crippled. And therefore, Catholic doctrine is poured into a head. You and I can only understand Catholic doctrine with our heads. The head is the recipient of doctrine. The doctrine gets put into our heads like into a bottle. The doctrine is not put in my arm. The doctrine is not fed into my heart by intravenous injection. The doctrine comes to my head. Okay, now if the head isn't working properly, then it's like pouring wine into a dirty bottle. If the bottle is dirty, it doesn't matter how good the wine is going to be spoiled. If the head is not functioning properly, it doesn't matter what beautiful truths you will put into it, of Catholic truth, Catholic doctrine, all of that truth will be distorted and changed and wrecked. And that's modernism. It's a problem, in other words, of the functioning of the head. The heads of the modernists are not functioning properly. It's a problem of nature. It's not a problem of supernature. It's not a problem of God's end. It's a problem of man's end. And it's not a problem of man disbelieving one dogma. The terrible thing about modernists is they think they believe everything. You could go today to Cardinal Ratzinger and you'd say, Your Eminence, do you believe in God the Father Almighty? Of course I do, he would say. Creator of heaven and earth? Of course. Creator of all things visible and invisible. Who do you take me for? Of course I believe that. And you go right through the creed. He'd believe every article, and yet he's a modernist. Because modernist doesn't attack just one truth. Modernism attacks all truth. Not only Catholic truth, or absolutely all truth. Because it puts, instead of truth being founded on rock, the rock of reality as it is, it's founded on the plastic. You pull out, the modernists pull the rock of reality out from under all truth, and instead they feed in the plastic of my feelings. I feel like this on Monday, quite differently on Tuesday. Therefore, there's no longer a rock under truths. It's now plastic, and the truths begin to rock. The truths begin to rock and roll. Truth just changes from Monday to Tuesday according to what I feel. So it's a system which doesn't only attack one truth or 2 truths or 5 truths of the Catholic faith. It's a system which undermines all truth. How is that possible? Because the modern mind doesn't work properly. Because for 2 centuries now, the so-called philosophers, like starting with Immanuel Kant in Germany, or Descartes and others before him, but mainly Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant who died in 1806, born in 1732 and died, in other words, he was writing at the time of the French Revolution, his main works, about the same time as the French Revolution. He's the French Revolution in philosophy. And Immanuel Kant changed the relationships between the mind and reality. He wrought what he called the Copernican revolution in philosophy. What did he mean by that? The Copernican revolution was the sun and the earth. Which goes around which? Does the sun go around the earth, or does the earth go around the sun? Before, in the Middle Ages, men naturally believed that the sun goes round the earth. That's what it looks like. The sun has just set over there. The sun was moving, the earth here was steady. Naturally, men think that it's the sun that moves around the earth. But Copernicus was an astronomer of the 1600s, and he said instead of the sun going around the earth, he said it's the earth that goes round the sun. So that was a complete revolution in the ideas of astronomy. That's the Copernican revolution. The parallel in philosophy is, here is reality. Well, let me change that around. Well, no. Here is reality. Here is reality. And here is my mind. Now, which goes around which? What does common sense say? Does my mind turn around reality, or does reality turn around my mind? Is this a microphone independently of whether I think it's a tortoise, or a dog, or a supermarket, or a piece of cheese? Does the microphone tell me what it is, or do I tell the microphone what it is? What does common sense say? Does the object turn around the mind, so that I can say that the microphone is a piece of cheese? Or does my mind turn around the microphone, so that whether I look it from one side, or from the other side, or from beneath, it's always a microphone? What's common sense say? Obviously, common sense says, my mind turns around the object, it turns around reality. Reality dominates my mind, reality tells me what it is, I don't tell reality what it is. Okay, so, this was Copernicus. Saying the earth turns around the sun. The mind turns around the reality. Common sense says that the mind turns around reality. Common sense. But now Immanuel Kant said it's reality that turns around the mind. Kant. And here are some flames, because Kant has got to be in hell. He's got to be in hell. He's done so much damage. He was a German, he wasn't Catholic, he was a Protestant, worked up in Königsberg in the north of Germany, in Prussia. And he was very strict in his private life, very strict. You could set your watch by the time he passed each morning on the pavement. He was so regular. He was apparently very virtuous, very, very strict. But in his ideas, he completely he built a system to enable men's minds to escape from reality. He built a system which would enable men to pretend that their mind was the master of reality. Now, I'm sure that Kant would have said that that's a microphone. Because, you see, if I say what is, what things are, and if I need something to sit down on, I'm sure to say this is a chair, because I need something to sit down. At breakfast in the morning, if there's a black liquid in a cup, I'm going to say it's coffee. Because if I don't say it's coffee, if I say it's poison, I'm going to be thirsty. I'm not going to be able to drink it if I start saying it's poison. If I start saying things are other than what they are, I'm not going to be able to live. So in order to live, I will say that, the basics are what they are. But I will still pretend that it's my mind that is making them what they are. So when there is God who is who he is, I am who am, he says. When there is God who is the super reality of all realities, the real God, the one true real God, I will say to him, no, you're not God, I'm God. So this system is very selective. The system of saying that my mind controls reality is a very selective system. I apply it when I want to make myself God. I will not apply it when I want to live and eat and drink and work and drive a car, all the normal things that I need to do. Then I'm not going to be a modernist. So it's a system that I apply only when I want. But it's a system that makes every truth that I don't like, I can make it rock and roll by saying that it depends upon my mind. This truth that I don't like, for instance, thou shalt not kill, I don't like that. So I put my plastic underneath. I don't have to obey the fifth commandment. No problem. So it's a system of liberty. My mind is liberated from anything and everything that it wants to be liberated from. And the mind of the modernist inside the church wants to be liberated from everything of the church's past, including the Ave Maria, which is why you've seen it just change. Why you've seen the way of the cross change, possibly you've seen that. You've seen, if you knew the church before the council, almost everything has been changed. So, this is the Copernican revolution in philosophy. Instead of my mind turning around the object, it's the object that goes around my mind. It's madness. It's basically madness. And the modernists are only succeed in living by ignoring their crazy system of thinking when they make a decision how to live. When, according to their system, when they get up in the morning, they put their feet out of the appearance of a bed on the appearance of the floor. They put on the appearance of clothes. They go down the appearance of the staircase. They get into the appearance of the garage. They climb into what appears like the car, but it is what I say it is. I say it's an elephant. Actually, it's a motor car, but I can say it's an elephant. But when I want to drive to the university and teach my nonsense in the philosophy department of the university, I will say it's a motor car because I want to get to the university. And when I get to the university, I'm not going to try to walk through the wall. I will walk through the door. I will say that the door is a door and the wall is a wall, because I want to get to my chair to teach my stupidities, because I am paid to teach my stupidities and I need the pay. So I will walk through the door as a door, and I walk up the stairs as the stairs, and so on. I hope you see that this madness is selective. So if Cardinal Ratzinger, for instance, will choose to say, I believe that God and the Father, creator of heaven and earth, and all things visible and invisible, he can choose to say that all of that is true. No problem. But in reality, he's only saying it's true because he's choosing to say it's true. He's not saying it's true. He does not believe that these things are true because they are real independently of his mind. His mind dominates these things. And therefore it's madness. It's simply madness. But there you are. So this is why the philosopher comes first. Because if you've understood the principle of reality turning around the mind, then you've understood that all reality is at the mercy of my ideas. So the problem of modernism lies not with the theologian, but with the philosopher. And all the rest depend on that. So, the conclusion depends on doctrine. The remedies depend on doctrine. The causes depend upon doctrine. when we come to the doctrine, then all of these depend on the philosopher. So how does the philosopher analyze? He analyzes into principles and application. The application of the principles. Now, it should be obvious that the application depends upon the principles. What do you apply? The application is the question. When you ask, what application? Application of what? Application of these principles. All right, then the application depends upon the principles. So we've got everything depending on this first section of the philosopher. How do the principles divide? The principles divide into negative and positive. And here we come to the very, very heart of the whole encyclical. Once you can understand the negative principle and the positive principle of modernism, you understand the whole of the encyclical, basically. Now, what is the negative principle? What is the positive principle? The negative principle of those two, obviously, the negative principle is like clearing the building site. Before you put up a building, you've got to clear the building site. You say the clearing the building site is clearing the building site is negative, building is positive. But the negative must go ahead of the positive. But if you don't clear the building site, you can't properly build. So the positive then depends upon the negative. So this then, the negative principle, whatever it is, it's the heart of Paschendi. This negative principle. And what is this negative principle? It's exactly what I've just been saying to you. The negative principle is that the mind cannot get to reality. I could try to explain that. How can a philosopher say something so stupid? I mean, my mind knows that this is a microphone. My mind knows that these are pillars. My mind knows that red is red and the blue is blue, green is green, whatever. I see these things and I know these things. It's not quite the same seeing and knowing. But, as we'll see in a moment. I do know. We'll take an example of that. So I hope you can see, in a way, the whole encyclical depends upon that clearing the building. Kant sends in the bulldozer, and the modernists follow Kant, and they just bulldoze all truths of the past. All truths need to be put on different foundations, and they need to be put on my foundations. Man in the place of God. The great cause of modernism is pride. Me, I am God. I say what things are, not God. It isn't God who says what things are. I say what things are. Madness, but that's it. All right, now then let's have a look at seeing and knowing. A little by way of explanation of this incredible principle, this incredible negative principle. A little to explain it, not too much. Some of you may have seen this. If you've seen it before, don't yell the answer. Okay, and I'm going to ask you, what is this? You're going to see that you're going to see a number of, I think it's 8 lines, and then a number of little dots, and I'm going to ask you what it is. And when you probably won't know what it is to begin with, but you will see very well. Your eye will see exactly everything. But the mind doesn't yet click. The mind doesn't yet grasp what it is. And then I tell you what it is, and oh, of course that's what it is. The mind clicks. And that should prove to you the difference between seeing with the eyes, or hearing with the ears, and knowing with the mind. The mind is different from the senses. And what Kant says is, We can reach the appearances, what appear to the senses, but the mind cannot know what's behind the appearances. Behind the appearances, we just don't know what things are. It's the mind that fabricates what things are. We'll come to that. Okay, here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now some dots. I don't know how many they're going to be. I'm not a great artist, but the principle, you understand the principle, there are some dots. Okay, you've got 8 straight lines, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23 little circles. Hands up anybody who can think and know what that picture is a picture of. Anybody? Okay. All of you see the lines and the dots, correct? So the eye is not going to be told anymore. The eye is not going to see more when I say what it is. But the mind will suddenly see behind the appearances what it is. Okay, wait for it. 1, 2, 3. It's a giraffe walking past a window. You get it? You get it? Okay. That should show to you, see, and the mind does know. The mind does know, recognizes immediately. Yes, it's a giraffe walking past a window. No problem. I do know what it is. It's not as though the mind doesn't. The mind just, when you laugh because you see what it is. You see that you didn't see, and you see that you do see. So you should understand that there is a real difference between seeing the appearance, and knowing what is behind the appearance. It's called in philosophy knowing the essence of things. But for Kant says that we see the appearance of things. Here's a tree. Okay, now, just like you see that, and you know it's a giraffe walking past the window, you can see what I mean when I say that's a tree. This would be coloured green, and the trunk would be coloured brown, so that the eye would pick up those colours. It might hear the wind rustling in the leaves. The mind would immediately grasp, this is a tree. I can see it's a tree, just outside here, it's a tree, obviously. For Kant, these senses, here's Kant. That's meant to be Kant, all right? So he's got an eye and he's got an eye. The eye sees the surface of things, but it cannot know the mind. Let me colour the mind a different colour. You must now agree that mind and senses are not the same thing. The mind is incapable of knowing what's behind. It's just, that's in German, it's called the Ding an sich, what the thing is in itself, the thing in itself. For Kant, the thing in itself is unknowable. Therefore, and this is very, very important, that's the negative principle. The mind can't know. The mind doesn't know. The mind is cut off from knowing what the things are, from knowing the objects as they are. The mind cannot go beyond the appearances. The mind can go with the senses as far as the appearances, but it stops at the appearances, like the senses do. So, how then do I know anything? How do I know? How does the mind create or know all of the things that the mind can know? Kant was very impressed by the English scientist Sir Isaac Newton, and Sir Isaac Newton discovered 3 laws to explain the movements of the planets. Kant was deeply impressed. So he was Newton knowing things by thinking about what the appearances, thinking behind the appearances. Kant was very impressed. Then how does Kant, with this theory of non-knowledge, how does he explain Newton? Well, he says the mind has its own little kitchen. I'll put in kitchen instead of mind. And the mind does its own cooking. The mind fabricates inside itself. It takes the appearances, and then it doesn't discover what's behind the appearances. it puts things onto, it works out its own system and puts its own system onto the appearances. Crazy. Crazy. In other words, the reality is created in Kant's mind on the basis of the appearances. Kant respects still the appearances. He would say that this is grey, this is black, this is shiny white or whatever, and so on and so on. This is a brown floor. He respects the appearances, but he says that behind the appearances is the mind that creates everything. The mind puts it all together. Given the appearances, a whole block of a wodge of appearances arrive, and the mind fabricates reality on the basis of those appearances. So that reality, as you can see, is now circulating around the mind instead of the mind circulating around reality. It's the Copernican revolution of philosophy. All right. Then that's the negative principle. The mind cannot know the object. Then where does any knowledge at all come from? And the answer will be, it comes from inside. It comes from inside. So the positive principle will be, it's called the principle of vital immanence. The negative principle is called, wait for it, you can call it various things. Phenomenist agnosticism. In other words, agnosticism, I don't know, a lack of knowledge based on the phenomenon. That's why you have so much phenomenist philosophy in modern times, because everybody today believes in Kant. All philosophers today believe in Kant, practically, which is absurd and crazy and sick. But then the world today is absurd and crazy and sick. And this is why. Because men have, out of pride, unhooked their minds from God's reality. So that the mind is free to spin on its own and fabricate the complete creation of its own. That's modern man. And it's stupid. It's stupid, stupid, stupid. And that's why people today don't have common sense, or they have less and less common sense, because common sense is what God gives us to grasp reality. Common sense corresponds to reality. For instance, men are men and women are women. That's reality. And they're different. They're not the same. They're not the same. They're both human beings, of course, and they're equal before God, but they're not equal in this life. In this life, the woman has, this is common sense, greater qualities of heart, while the man has greater qualities of head. That's reality. It's just the way things are. Which is why the women are obviously much better at looking after little children than babies, because they need heart, intuition to understand. Whereas a man can stand in front of a little baby and try to work out the sums. He's useless with little babies. He doesn't know how to handle little babies. She does. In all, St. Thomas Aquinas will say, and this is common sense, in everything that concerns motherhood and maternity, women are superior. In everything else, men are superior. And the man is meant to be the head of the family, and the head means the superior, and the woman is meant to be the heart of the family, which means the life of the family, because the heart means life. The woman gives life, the man thinks and gives lead. That's how it should be. That's the nature of man, the real nature of man, the real nature of woman. The modern world, in the name of liberty and equality, wants absolute equality between man and woman, and it doesn't fit. It does not fit. Women are not made to lead. When the men are dish rags, sometimes the poor women have to lead. They have to step in to fill the gap. But if the men lead as they should, the women will happily follow the lead of the men, as God meant. God meant the men to lead, which doesn't mean being tyrants. It means looking after who you're leading. St. Paul says in the Gospel of yesterday, men, love your wives. Women need to be loved. The heart needs to be loved. But he says, wives, obey your husbands. The heart must respect the head. And a woman will destroy her marriage if she doesn't know how to respect her husband. If she humiliates her husband. If she takes pleasure in humiliating her husband, he's not going to love her. Wives, if you want to be loved, respect your husbands. You do want to be loved. You need love. You run on love. Men don't run on love. Men run on ego. That's the truth of the matter. But that's how God made them. I mean, God didn't make them to sin, but He did make them to run on their heads, and He did make them to do the thinking, and He did make them to lead, because they think. The women don't think. They're not made to think. And you can't rear a baby by thinking. You rear a baby by sensing, by feeling what the little thing needs, by sensing what it's, and so on and so on and so on. So reality is what it is. It's not what we fabricate. But in the modern philosophy, it's man himself that fabricates the reality. Okay. So where does, since then in the modernists, well, you've seen a number of you've seen some of the basics, the absolute basics of the encyclical. Now let's distribute these all over, please. Distribute them all over and all around. And we'll have a look at the encyclical itself. You've already tackled, or we have already tackled, the essence, the absolute essence. And it's a little bit difficult, it's a little bit philosophical. But I think if I say to you that men today have unhooked from reality, I think you understand. I think you can recognize that. They're trying to tell reality what it is. And I say, the relationship between man and woman. Man is saying, same-sex marriage now, all over the world, people are saying, same-sex marriage is perfectly okay. But we men say that it's okay. We men say what marriage is. It's no longer God who says what marriage is. One man, one woman. It's we men. And we say one man, one woman, no problem. We're doing away with the 6th and 9th commandments. We're doing away with the commandments. We're doing away with God. I think you can recognize that that's what the world around you is like. Okay, now, has everybody got a copy? Because everybody has a copy? We're not short of any copies? Okay, maybe you've got a few extra, doesn't matter. Right, now, you've got, it's on two sides. So, you've got, Paschendi part 1 says an overview. And then you turn over and it says Paschendi part 2, the heart of the matter. Turn back and you can see that a little way down the page you've got a box with a double line all around it, and that says the heart of the matter. So, this is not as perfectly clear as it could or should be, but still. You've got the introduction, 5 sentences, then 5 paragraphs. Then you've got the doctrine starts. The doctrine starts immediately. And you see that the doctrine is in 7 sections. I was right about 7. The 7 sections I've given you there. Firstly, in the heart of the matter, you've got the philosopher, the believer, and the theologian. Then number 4 is the historian, is on part 1 side of the sheet. Critic, apologist, reformer, and the conclusion. So, when you turn over, you've only got the main part of the doctrine, the first 3 sections of the doctrine. And then there are another 4 sections of the doctrine on page 1.